Hello, Lachlan! Oh, how I wish I could see your faces, but you'll have to make do by seeing my face again for the third video of how music works. So if you've seen the other two videos, you know basically what we're doing is we're kind of taking you through the evolution of how recorded music got started and how people would listen to music in their homes. So before recorded music was invented, people listened to music either by playing it live or having the player piano, which is what I showed you all about for that first video. And then we went on to the Edison May machine, which uses cylinder records, which we'll get to in a second. Now we've moved past cylinders and moved onto a flat disc record. Now if I say the word record, probably what you guys are thinking of is something that looks like this. A 12-inch LP record. A Billy Joel LP record because he's awesome. But anyway, I digress. But before we get to this stage, there were a lot of other stages. And one of them is one of the first flat disc records. And it looks like this. And you can see already that it's much smaller than the records we're used to. And if you could feel it, you would know that it's quite heavy as well. It's made of a totally different material. It's not made of vinyl. It's made of, amongst other things, shellac. What is shellac? Well, this record, ladies and gentlemen, is made from bugs. That's right. There's a bug called the lac bug, and I believe it's somewhere in the Thailand area, that area of the world. And they use the secretions from this lac bug, mix it all up, and create materials like records. At least they used to. So this record, heavier and smaller than the record we're used to today, was played on a machine like this. Now this phonograph machine exists because we said before that Thomas Edison invented the way to record, the recording phonograph. His was a cylinder. Well, a guy named Emile Berliner invented the flat disc recording. Well, what's the difference besides the way it looks? Well, with the blue cylinder, it spun like this. And there's a needle for any record player. There's always a needle that plays in those grooves. The cylinder has grooves just like a record has grooves. And on the cylinder machine, the needle is right here, and it goes down and up and goes into those grooves and up and out. And if you think about it like if you're driving in a car, the blue cylinder machine works like you're driving on a hill, a hilly road. It's kind of like this. Well, the flat disc record changes all of that. And instead of going up and down, you now move side to side. So those grooves are still there, and that's what makes the sound, is those grooves in those records. But instead of the grooves going in and out or up and down on a blue cylinder, now they're moving flat this way and this way and this way. So side to side like a windy road versus up and down like a hilly road. Okay, but if you look at this machine, this one is from a company called Sonora, and it looks really similar to a record player that you might have in your home. Obviously, the pieces are a little bit different. It's made from different materials, but the basics are the same, okay? It's got this switch, which turns it on and off. This piece here, which can move the tempo or the speed of the machine, although this machine moves at 78 RPM, which we'll get to in a later episode. And it has little compartments to hold needles, because like I said before, every record player needs a needle, and eventually those needles get dull and they need to be changed. And there's also a plug. Where's the plug? There's no plug. Well, how does it work? It runs on pasta. Every record machine without electricity in the Petrelli household runs on pasta because I eat a lot of pasta. And here's how that works. This has a crank, just like the Edison machine did. So in order to get that started, you have to crank it up, which means the person cranking it up needs to have energy. So Mr. Petrelli sits down, eats a big old bowl of potential energy, pasta. My body changes that into kinetic energy, moving energy. I then transfer that energy into the crank to play the music. So thank you, pasta, for giving us music. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I had a meatball too. There we go. Now when you crank it, the more you crank it, the harder it gets to go around, and that's just because the tension is pulling like an elastic band. And you don't want to pull it too much or the band will break. You don't want to rotate the crank too much or it will break as well. So you'll feel the tension and you'll know when to stop it as well. So now that all of that energy is in there, it's waiting, it's potential, it's waiting to ignite, here's how we ignite it. So we put this up so it doesn't start earlier than it needs to. And we crank this right here. And it starts to play. And then you can kind of see that needle right there. And I'll kind of put it right about there, I think. So if you were alive in the 1920s or 1930s, it's very, very likely that your home would have something similar to this to play music. So instead of having those blue cylinders, now your home might have a bunch of records. It still would only play one song though. So remember, the blue cylinder is only one song. The record plays one song, but there's two sides of it. So for the first time ever, you could have two songs because you could flip it upside down. And then, eventually, the technology would change and take that to a whole other level on what's called LP records. We'll get to that later. But now, you know how a phonograph machine on a flat disc works. This is not just an ornament, it's the speaker. And you can put your hand in here and get it cut off. No, you won't. There's nothing in there. That's the horn for the speaker. I'll fix that. I didn't break it, I promise. But here's your flat disc record player. And that is how music works.